Cats, cops, and C4. The soft clopping of well-trimmed hoof onto hypercrete is gentle to the ears of most, aggravating to his own. The sensation of grime settling into his fur from the environment itself disgusts him. This low and nothing but fungus can grow with the light having long been rendered unnatural. There were still the occasional garden and patch of greenery on the 8th, but down here, spaceships were more natural and comfortable than this place. He draws a small shock pistol as his path takes him under a walkway. The pistol is all but ground into the face of a woman that had started to emerge out of the darker shadows beneath the walkway as he approached, and she wisely backs away. He has little time for the nonsense of others or their games. He has a simple duty to perform, and then he can get out of this caustic cesspit. He can feel the value of his suit declining and the soaps he'd lathered into his fur slip away as he moves through the area. He dislikes environmental suits and power armor, but an environment this unclean and unpleasant is making quite the argument for both. Or perhaps a little one-carob environmental pod. But of course, any of those things would attract even more attention than he already has. And if he's not the talk of the town already, then he'll saw off the left half of his rack, and he prefers that half. A flutter of figures on rooftops and balconies above confirm his suspicion. Underspires are interesting places with their construction. There's so little room with the widened pillars that hold up the rest of the superstructure. So the walkways also have buildings hanging from them, and in some places, camps. Camps of people who cannot even afford the crumbling and cracked places in these disgusting slums. How any business can thrive, let alone have its main headquarters down here, is baffling to him. The galaxy truly is a bizarre place, no matter where in it you came from. Be it the yawning expanse of darkness the humans spawned from, or the boreal forests of his own ancestors. There was always something doing all it could to knock you off balance and leave you dazed. He says nothing as he notices fluttering figures moving through the area. Someone soon to try something. His response must be as total as it must appear effortless. Large horns, shiny carapaces, and numerous buzzing wings tell him he's attracted the attention of insectoids. However, with them keeping a respectful distance, he can tell no more at this range. Begrab, perhaps? Maybe Lede? He wonders as he thinks to two of the more subterranean and heavily armored insectoid species. They were examples of parallel evolution, and when they interbred, it was common to have a coin flip on what race they were said to be when the child was born. He feels something land onto his left sleeve, and he flicks it off. There is nothing left behind on his finger, so part of him assumes it to be psychosomatic. But he's not going to discount it as. Something else seems to fall near him, and he glances upwards with a frown. It's in the axiom. This place is so filthy that the axiom itself is sloughing downwards. Disgusting. This kind of nonsense is most prevalent in the laneways. But for the axiom to be attuned to dripping, his antlers begin to glow as he sets up a shield around him to cause the dripping axiom to stay right the hell off him. No, it's not dirt, but it feels dirty. With himself further opened up to the axiom, he can now sense that there are a great many more insect women scuttling and skittering around behind him. They're definitely up to something. All right, all of you clear away. A new voice, and he turns to regard her. Lady Rakaxa, he says as she slithers up. He's looking right at her, and he can't sense her in the axiom, despite her clearly glowing with it. He can even sense the dripping axiom going through her without flickering in the slightest. She's here, but the axiom isn't reacting. How is she doing this? You can head home, little Carib. I have a similar goal to your masters, and will be clearing away some of their problems as I settle things enough to get started on my own, she says, passing by him. She's strong enough to rip one of the pillars apart, but she's not even making a whisper as she moves. The insectoids above scatter entirely. They want nothing to do with the potential bad side of a primal Nagasha of all women. Something he understands, something he continues after her. Unsure if it's the wisest course of action, but he must see. He must know. He will see. He will know, and he will grow stronger and wiser for it. Oh, well, aren't we the gutsy little mammal? Rakaxa notes, looking back, and he pauses. Keep coming. I don't mind the company. I'm a little surprised you're alone, Moriarty says after rushing up to catch up to her. Normally I'm not, however. Well, your employers have found out that someone who had paid me insult was a little more grandiose than I thought she was. So my daughters, retainers, and employees are all busting their tails to get ready. 4? Oh, they haven't told you. They're in a war with Miss Big. Wait, they've uncovered Miss Big? The real one? Not an imitator? They have, and while I thought the idiot was giving me a backhanded compliment that came out as an insult, it turns out the sheer magnitude of it was much larger. No, she mimicked you in some way, and if it was just once, it might have been cute if she hadn't done something you dislike while doing it. But she's done it repeatedly. Moriarty considers after a bit. Oh, very well put together. Good guesswork, she says, and he nods. Thank you, he says, and it was a guess. An act that could be a compliment, but ended up an insult, could be any number of things. But mimicry is a very common one. Tell me, little Carib, are the Undaunted good masters? Ma'am, Moriarty asks as he looks around, you need to let go of the opinions of others. It's hard enough carving your own path free from the rules and restrictions of others, especially when you're caught and chained. It's harder still when you let others put chains on you, Rikaxa states. How do you break them? How do you become free? Truly free? Moriarty asks, and Rikaxa pauses and turns to regard him fully. Her smile is sad and almost pitying. Child, she says, putting a hand on his shoulder and looking him right in the eyes, there is nothing more miserable, lonely, and empty than complete freedom. The true proper freedom, what you actually want, isn't total freedom. It's the freedom to let go of what you do not wish to hold. But if you hold nothing, you will be alone, cold, and miserable. I wasn't expecting philosophy as an answer. Philosophy is the art of finding answers, Rikaxa says. But to be clear, what you want isn't freedom, it's control. Control over your own life and choices, which is something everyone struggles with. There is no answer. Even for you, my daughters, my adherents, my businesses, my assets, more. If you say I control them, then you will find no shortage of people agreeing. But if I want to keep them, then they need things from me. Then they, in some way, control me, she says, and Moriarty's eyes widen in horror as part of his worldview crashes. But that, he thinks hard and nearly flinches. How did he not notice before? How did he not see it before? He straightens up and brushes his lapel a bit. I see, thank you, ma'am. You have given me much to think about. You're a clever young man, much more so than most. Couple that with an observant and patient personality, and I can see you shaking spires with your every whim one day. But nothing is perfect. Everything can be improved, and some mistakes you have to make. Mistakes that put me in chains. A mistake that has given you an advantage. The Undaunted are keeping you out of jail, right? Use it. Become invaluable to them. Make yourself more important to them than they are to you. Or don't. It's your life, she says as they arrive at the Amara's Liqua headquarters. Here, let me get that for you, he says with a flicker of axiom running over his antlers and opening the door for her. Ah, making moves to ingratiate me already. Well done. She compliments him and slips inside. After her enormous body is all the way in, he follows. The receptionist, a latrine woman, is staring open-mouthed at Rikaxa and seems to be stunned. Does this happen often? Moriarty asks as he clops to stand beside her. Less in places I'm known to frequent, but we do get tourists on occasion. She answers before there is a mild twist of axiom around her hood, and the lutrin snaps out of it entirely. My apologies, milady, and, sir, the lutrin says as her mind is clearly trying to work through what's going on. Common manners says man first, common sense says primal. It looks like she's about to get into another mental traffic jam. Take care of Lady Rikaxa first. I'm content to wait, Moriarty says pleasantly. Yes, being seen with Lady Rikaxa will be a big help, and she is correct that he needs to have a new perspective on the Undaunted. Like with the Primal Lady, the bonds go both ways. He can use the Undaunted as much as they use him. Milady Primal, how may Amara's Liqua be of service to you today? I would like to pay off a bounty, Rikaxa states. I see, which one? The one targeting Amy Frost of Vanadis Plate. The Undaunted are protecting her and doing work for me, and I'd rather they be a touch less distracted. Ma'am, company policy is that when a bounty is paid off, you have to match the original bounty plus 25%, as we return the money to the original payee. The price is 50 million. The lutrin begins and Rikaxa places a case on the counter. The receptionist opens it and is illuminated by the light pouring off the axiom ride inside. She just stares at the money inside for a moment before her antenna twitches and she quickly counts it. This is enough exactly. I will process this now, ma'am, and then as you observe, I will place this wealth within our vault before returning the case to you. You may keep the case, Rikaxa states. Thank you. The woman states as she quickly and frantically types things out for a few moments before turning the screen around. As you can see here, Lady Primal, I have refunded the money of the previous payee and sent out an alert to all contractors of Authorized that the bounty is now paid off. I do see so, Rikaxa says, and the clearly nervous woman turns the screen back. Very good. Now if you'll excuse me a moment, I need to put this into our vault right now. The receptionist says, closing the case that had been shining on her the entire time and rushing into the back. Moriarty can hear 3 doors being flung open as she races full out and then pauses. She returns a minute later with wide eyes and a demeanor of forced calm. Will that be all, Lady Primal? She asks Rikaxa. Yes, it will. Thank you very much for your business. Authorized is happy to serve, the receptionist states and smiles at the larger woman. It's fake, plastered, and hiding some fear. Moriarty's eyebrows are up at the interaction, judging and considering. It would be nice to be treated with such blatant respect and fear, but it's going to take a lot more work to get to such a level. He hasn't been blessed to be born already considered the absolute peak of a species and a natural immortal, which just means he'll have to put in some effort. He considers for a moment as the receptionist turns to him and decides to push his luck. He turns away. Thank you, but seeing as how you both just did exactly what I wanted, I should be going now. Rikaxa snorts in amusement as the receptionist looks from him to her and back again in absolute shock as she tries to put things together and is clearly having a hard time processing it. He slips outside ahead of them and brings out his communicator. Hello, friend. It's all gone off perfectly. A certain serpent has decided to do us a favor, and I've got some change left behind. Perhaps you'd like to have it back before we lose it in the couch cushions? It is the type of money to do just that, isn't it? Rikaxa asks even as dispatch gives a note of confirmation. Well played, little Carib. This should be plenty amusing. Thank you. The young can be treacherous too, you know, and he says with a graceful bow, and she laughs lightly at that. Indeed you can. Have fun with what's coming. I know I will. And what's coming? Cousin Basilash, of course. Rikaxa says, and Moriarty's eyes widen. Oh, don't worry, she understands the need for people like you. You'll be fine. After all, you're paying your sentence even now. Right. Oh dear. Excuse me, I need to know just what the hell my friends have been doing to not tell me this. I'm sure they have their reasons,